The single greatest skill that separates fat people from fit people is not genetics, it's not taking a magic supplement, it's mastering the psychology of weight loss. In my 20s, I was a fat, directionless high school dropout who was 30 pounds overweight and couldn't see a way to get myself into my best shape. And now at 46 years old, I've been helping thousands of people for the past 20 years get into incredible shape, and it's not because I'm special, I'm no different than you. It's because I stopped letting my fat mindset ruin my life. Now, if you want to lose weight and not have to worry about this problem ever again, you need to break free from these 7 limiting beliefs that are keeping you fat. Now, before we continue, I am a health and performance coach. I'm not a psychologist. If you are dealing with an eating disorder or something serious with your mental health, please go talk to someone that's qualified. This video is for someone who's generally healthy and cannot figure out why the weight can't stay off. So trap number 1 is every food decision that you make today, every belief that you have is being run by a script that you never actually sat down and wrote. Most people think that their thoughts are theirs, but they're not. They absorb them from their family, from their failed attempts, or from someone who said something to you when you were younger. Most people have never taken the time to actually read the script out loud. And researchers at USC actually found something that reorganized how I thought about this whole mental process. When an action feels like something you would do, when it fits who you think you are, then the difficulty of doing it gets read as proof that it matters. When the same action feels like something you wouldn't do, the same exact difficulty gets read completely different. It becomes proof that this was never going to work, that it's pointless, and that it wasn't for people like yourself. And there are actually 4 scripts that I see people falling for over and over. Number 1 is what I call the fixed identity believer. This is where a person says that I'm just built this way, or I just have bad genetics, or they claim that they have a slow metabolism. And their belief is that this is permanent, so effort is pointless. The second is what we call the willpower martyr. It's a person who just thinks that they need more discipline. And it's also where food becomes a moral category. You have good foods, you have bad foods, you have good days, you have bad days, and every slip doesn't actually become a slip, it becomes evidence of the person they are. Number 3 is what we call the stigma defender, and there's a little bit of resentment underneath this one. So people like this think that fit people are judging them, or fitness feels like a status threat, so they push it away before it can push them away. And number 4 is what we call the flexible identity. It's actually when someone starts to believe that they are becoming someone who likes training, not someone who's trying to lose weight. It's all about becoming as opposed to doing. And when it came to losing weight, I was guilty of number 1 and number 3. I told myself that I had horrible genetics and that there was no point even trying because my body would always drag me back. And I believe that did more damage than any diet ever did because it actually stopped me from even starting. Now, the thing that broke this actually had nothing to do with me wanting to get in shape in the first place. When I started to go to the gym, I just wanted to go because I wanted to be around hot women. I told myself I would go for 30 days straight, and the best case is that I get my ass in shape, and the worst case is I get to be around attractive women who are also in shape. Either way, I win. And 30 days later, 2 things happened that I did not expect. Number 1, I didn't meet any women at the gym. 0. But number 2 was more important. I was in the change room and I noticed a couple of things. I dropped a couple notches on my belt even when I hadn't been dieting at all. And even though I was doing all the exercises wrong, I found out that my shoulders kind of looked bigger, and people would actually tell me, it's like, Dan, are you working out? Now, if there's anything that people know when they first start lifting, is that newbie gains are real. And more importantly, they're motivating. So I didn't need to fix my belief and then act. I actually acted for a very stupid reason. Maybe it was good, maybe it's stupid, I don't know. But the evidence actually broke the belief for me. Now, I also thought fit people were vain and full of themselves and probably terrible human beings. And what I eventually figured out was that they're actually normal people who just cared about their health. And some of them are vain and narcissistic, and same as plenty of people who are not fit. And one of the biggest ahas for me was when I realized that if you don't like people who are healthy or you have a secret resentment against them, then you're not going to become healthy. Same thing goes if you don't like people who are wealthy. When you hate the thing you want, you will find every reason not to become it. Now, the way through this is to write your beliefs down. Get a piece of paper and finish this sentence. The reason I can't get in shape is... And just be honest with yourself. Write out whatever comes out, and that is the script that you've been running for years without ever putting it in front of your eyes. The first step is awareness, and you can't change a belief that you never named in the first place. Now, trap number 2 is what I call setting a short time horizon. The biggest disconnect I see with people who try to lose weight is that it took them years to put the weight on, but they only give themselves around 6 to 12 weeks to take it off. And if you look at the math, it just doesn't work. And research done in the British Journal of Medicine looked at long-term weight loss maintenance across a large number of randomized control trials. The finding was that the thing that protects your results isn't the intensity of the program, but whether there is actually something in place after it ends. And most programs are actually built for only 6 to 12 weeks. Nothing is actually built for month 7 or even year 2. So back when I was in my 20s, I found this diet online and it was called the Velocity Diet. So the pitch was very simple. You drink 5 protein shakes a day for 30 days straight, 0 real food and just protein shakes. And I did it. And it worked. I actually got leaner than I'd ever been in my life, and I was thrilled. But when the diet was over and I started eating real food again, within about a month, I gained it all back and then some. I actually ended up fatter than when I started. What the f? And I spent years frustrated, stuck cycling through the same weight loss and same weight gain cycles. And the thing that actually turned everything around for me was one sentence that I kept on saying to myself: this is going to take as long as it takes, and I'm willing to give it as much time as it needs. So I gave myself a full 2 years, and something amazing happened. When I stopped rushing, the pressure came off. And when I didn't have that pressure, I actually had room to build behaviors and the identity that made staying lean automatic. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, I want you to extend your timeline until it stops being scary for you. And ask yourself, where do I want to be in 2 years? Not 6 weeks, but 2 years, and then work backwards from there. And you will be shocked at how much less desperate every decision becomes and how much more sustainable this process is, so you can keep it off for the rest of your life. Now, trap number 3 is what I call the all or nothing trap. And this is the one that gets most people because it's the one I still have to watch for in myself. This is the one where you're perfect for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, you eat something off plan and something happens in your head and you're telling yourself, shit, I just blew it. I might as well just give up. Now, when people give up, it doesn't mean that they're going to get back on track tomorrow. It just means that the whole thing is over and the diet probably didn't work for them. And there's an actual term for this. It's called the abstinence violation effect. And it's like this. The old approach is that you're one diet slip away from ruining your diet. But they argued the opposite, that one slip is a lapse, not a relapse. And these are two completely different things. An example of this would be thinking that you need to be on a perfect diet. So what ends up happening is that your daughter's birthday comes along and you have to eat one slice of cake, and then you realize that you've broken some arbitrary rule, so you have to figure that, hey, you might as well have as many slices of cake as you want. And the only reason I know this is because I've done this many times. And also, I'm the type of guy who actually hates being told what to do. So when you tell me that I have to do something, I usually will want to do the complete opposite. So when I set up these rigid, perfect rules for my diet, whether it be no carbs or no sugar, I would just fail against them. I would rebel against them. Some part of my brain treated these rules like they came from someone else, and then I went to war. And that's the thing you have to realize about yourself, that you can actually be the person making the rules and also be the person that's breaking them out of spite. And what changed for me was realizing that my diet actually does not have to be perfect for me to lose weight. In fact, in order to keep it off, I have to build my favorite foods into my diet on purpose, not as cheat days or rewards, just as part of how I eat. And the second I did that, there was nothing left to rebel against, and getting in shape actually became fun, which I didn't know was allowed. Now, the way through this is that you don't want to fire a good employee after one bad afternoon, and you don't want to end a marriage after one bad week. Now, I'm going to talk about this later on in the video, but shame after you slip up also makes you more likely to go off track, but self-compassion can actually make you more likely to course correct. When that judgy voice comes on in your brain, I want you to switch it up to pretending as if you are talking to your best friend, because you cannot punish yourself into a healthy body. I've watched a lot of people try, myself included, and all of them fail. And by the way, if you're watching this, I want to hear from you. Which one of these is hitting the hardest for you? Drop it in the comments below. What's been the biggest mental hurdle you've run into when you're trying to lose weight? I actually do read all the comments, and they end up shaping what videos I make next. Let's get into trap number 4, which is being in the wrong environment. Most people don't realize that they're sitting in a minefield, and they've been blaming themselves every time for stepping on the mines. The modern food environment was engineered to override your signals, telling you whether or not you're full. Companies spend billions of dollars designing foods to make you feel that way. And you're also surrounded by the ads about the very foods that cause you to gain weight in the first place. But the biggest fail in your environment isn't just in your kitchen. It's the people around you. Healthy or unhealthy behaviors are contagious, and they spread through your social network. And the people you spend time with quietly set the standards for what you think is normal. Also, there's been something that I've seen in workplace performance that's just common sense and quite obvious. People who sit near high performers tend to improve their performance, and the people who sit near low performers tend to decline in their performance. Proximity to others just changes what you feel is normal, and your health works the same way. So when I first got serious about getting in shape, I went through my fridge and my pantry and I literally put everything into a big black garbage bag and I threw it all out. And my rule was simple. If I really wanted something, I had to leave my house and go buy it. I wanted to put distance between myself and the impulse. Now, the second part was a lot harder. I didn't get rid of all of my friends, but I started to spend more time around people who had a value of being fit and healthy. And I made one of the biggest decisions of my life to move from the East Coast of Canada to the West Coast and ended up hanging around a community of guys who actually care about their health. They're in really awesome shape. They're also running successful businesses. They're in amazing relationships. And I've come to believe that the people you surround yourself with have the single biggest influence on your health and honestly, your entire life. And that means who you let in is a decision you should be making with intention and purpose. So if this is something you need to fix, then we want to do something called the environment audit. Write down everything in your kitchen, your calendar, to the people that usually pull you off course. Now, don't overhaul the entire list. Just change one of them this week. You want to design your environment so it works for a person you want to become. Now, trap number 5 is a big one, and it's eating your feelings. My biggest weakness was eating my emotions, and the pattern was so consistent that it was almost hilarious. All day long, I'd be fine in the morning, and all the way to the evening, I would have control until dinner would happen and all bets were off. After dinner, it was like open season on junk food. And for a long time, I thought willpower was the problem, but it wasn't. I was actually running a demanding job which carried a lot of stress. And at the end of the day, I needed somewhere to put it, and food became my safety blanket. And most people aren't eating because they're hungry. They're eating because they're stressed, anxious, bored, or even overwhelmed. Now, food does make you forget about your emotions for about 20 minutes, and then afterwards they come roaring back. And a review done by the Nutrition Society showed that emotional eating predicts future weight gain in adults. Now, a key piece to know is that people who combine short sleep with emotional eating appear to be the most vulnerable. And this makes sense because when you're exhausted, everything is so much harder to deal with. Now, something that I learned about emotions is that it's not about needing to stop feeling them or having to avoid them. It's definitely not trying to numb them with food or alcohol because they will come back. The only way out is through, and this actually means 2 things. When a strong emotion comes, stop and notice the feeling. Instead of doing something to avoid it, allow yourself to sit with it long enough to feel it. A great book on this is actually called Letting Go by David Hawkins. His idea is that a feeling only sticks around because you're fighting it, pushing it down or arguing with it or trying to make it go away. When you stop resisting and just let it be there, you notice that it runs out of its own fuel. So stop trying to numb or even fight your emotions and allow yourself to go through it. Now, when I was cleaning out my fridge and pantry and forcing myself to leave the house to buy something I craved, I realized there's actually a name for this, and it's called urge surfing. So let's just say an emotion hits and then the cravings come afterwards. It just means that you're waiting 10 to 15 minutes before acting on it. This doesn't mean you're suppressing anything, but you're just putting space between the impulse and the response. And something I learned about cravings, because I've had a lot of them, is that it's not a permanent state. It's actually more like a wave. And most of the time you don't act on it, it just leaves. So for the past couple of months, I've been building a nutrition app. And one of the coolest things that I put in there is the process of urge surfing. Now, I remember the very first time I experienced this because it was so profound. And I was out on a date night with my wife. We just had a drink and I was thinking about ordering a second old fashioned. Now, before I followed through on the craving, I wanted to check in with my nutrition coach. And it did ask me a couple questions, and we all agreed to just wait 15 minutes before deciding. And after those 15 minutes were gone, the craving disappeared. There was no trying, it was just accountability and distance. So the next time an emotion hits, employ the letting go technique and then also use urge surfing to allow yourself that space between the stimulus and response. Now, trap number 6 is something I see with a lot of our clients, and it's just waiting to feel motivated. So everyone has it backwards when it comes to motivation. They think that motivation comes first before the action when it's the other way around. You actually show up, you take the action, you start moving, and then the motivation shows up. Motivation isn't the thing that gets you there. It's actually the thing that gets you showing up in the first place. So as for myself, I waited years until I felt ready to train. One of the greatest freedoms that I experienced in my life is that every day I don't need to feel anything in order to take action. And the thing about motivation is that it is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. And a great tool for this is actually an evidence-based strategy, and it's called implementation intentions. And it's simply saying, if X happens, then I do Y. It's basically deciding in advance. There's a meta-analysis done by Goldwitzer and Sheeran covering 94 studies and more than 8,000 people. if-then planning produced a medium to large effect on whether people actually took action to hit their goals. And it's just common sense. It's your plan for what happens when the plan stops working. And I'll tell you right now, at 46, my life right now is significantly more complicated than it used to be. I'm running multiple businesses, I have small children, aging parents, relationships, and friends. The busier it gets, the less I can afford to rely on how I feel. Now I have pre-planned systems. I have a pre-planned system for when I go out to eat, for travel, for late night eating. I don't run on motivation anymore. I actually run on habits and pre-made decisions. And the final trap is actually trying to fix everything all at once. So when someone finally decides to get serious about their health, they try to fix everything from their diet to their training to their sleep to their stress to their walking all in the same week. And 3 weeks later, they're burnt out. They're done. And the conclusion that they draw from this is, I guess this wasn't for me, when the move is actually the opposite. And I call this the bottleneck method. So essentially, we want to find our key bottleneck, which is the one thing that holds us back. And if we fix it, it will make the outcome you're trying to achieve easier or even irrelevant. And once you fix that, you fix almost everything. And mine was late night eating. Everything I did all day long was undone between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. I didn't fix my diet. I didn't fix my training. I actually just did something unique. I set an alarm for 6 p.m. Once that alarm went off, the kitchen was closed for me. And that was my only intervention. Next, I tracked it using a habit called HabitKit. I have no affiliation to them. I actually just use their app every single day. And let me show you what mine actually looks like. Now, if you look at this, you're going to see there are some gaps. There are some days I didn't do it, whether it was traveling or my situation didn't allow for it. And I really want you to look at these blank spaces because this is actually the part that most people get wrong. Consistency does not mean every single day. It actually means you hit the mark 80 to 90% of the time. These gaps are not failures to me. They're actually what an honest year looks like. Notice what the tracker is actually doing here. It's showing me the pattern instead of the day. So when you see the big picture, you realize that one missed Tuesday stops feeling like the end of everything. Now, your task is to find the one thing. Ask yourself, what is the keystone behavior that if I fixed it would make all of the other problems seem smaller? And for most entrepreneurs that we work with, it's actually one of 4 things: stress eating, sleep, alcohol, and not having some form of automation when it comes to their meals. But whatever it is for you, pick one, track it, and ignore everything else. You will make way more progress than you realize. So when I say stop trying to lose weight, here's what I mean. Losing weight is not the hard part. Anyone can lose weight. Most do it almost every January. The hard part is becoming a person that doesn't have to worry about this part of their life anymore. You don't get there by trying or hustling. You don't get there by rushing. It's actually an evolution. And these things don't happen in a matter of weeks. Most people wildly overestimate what they can change in 6 weeks and then wildly underestimate what they can change in 2 years. And I know this because I went from a guy who was drinking protein shakes for a full 30 days trying to force it to being a guy who gave himself the time he needed while eating his favorite foods and getting to his leanest body at 46. This gave me time to create the habits, behaviors, and identity to stop struggling with my weight. And it wasn't because I was trying to fix my body. It was because I was trying to fix the operating system that was running the body in the first place. Now, here's what I want you to do because I just don't want you to be this exercise in information gathering. We want to do something actionable out of this. Do not go and try to fix all 7 of these. What I want you to do is just to pick one. Usually it's the one that makes you feel the most uncomfortable while I was talking about it. Write down the beliefs that are underneath, use the tools that I gave you, and run it for longer than it feels reasonable because the person you're capable of becoming is on the other side of changing your mind first. Now, if you want a more tangible side of losing weight, I did a video on the actual foods that I ate in order to get myself to 12% body fat. You can check that out over there. See you on the next video.